This is my kind of beginning of the week update, and highlights of over the weekend of things that occurred over the weekend. So, for me, as far as movies goes, this was kind of Zoe Kravitz weekend because I managed to watch two movies that starred that where she was featured. The one she was kind of the main character, and that was called Kimmy on HBO Max. Um, I give it five kissies, simply because it is a very good movie. It is very engaging. Um, I would have liked to seen a tiny bit more action earlier on in the movie. A lot of times movie studios do what I call the oversell, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit further, where you see all of the best parts of the movie in the trailer, or there are parts in the trailer and you look at the movie and you don't wind up seeing those parts at all, and you're like, well, wait a minute, what happened? So I'm going to need movie studios to be a little more consistent with their advertising, because there's nothing worse than being sold on a movie and then getting to see the movie, and you feel like all the best parts of the movie were in the trailer, which is kind of you know the trailer is supposed to kind of be like a sample when you go to the supermarket and you get samples. The sample is supposed to make you want more of the product that is a really good product, not be the best part of the product. Like if you go to a movie, if you see the sample lady in the supermarket and they give you a piece of a particular pie that they're carrying, and you taste it and you go, my God, this is good, girl. Give me a couple dozen of them, right? That's what it's supposed to make you want to do, get more. And then you get the pie home, and the best part was where, um, and the best part of it is where, is back there on the lady's sample plate. You're gonna be a little ticked because now you're invested. You've got all these pies, and the best part of the pie, unfortunately, that's usually not the case with most pies and cakes, but you get what I'm talking about. And to me, that's what a movie trailer should be. It should be a sample that makes me want more. And when I get to the theater, because I'm the type of person, I get excited when I go to see movies or when I watch a movie at home, especially if I've seen the trailers beforehand and it isn't out yet. Then I'm really, really excited about seeing it, because I'm anticipating, okay, this is just um, like the Holy Spirit, this is just a down payment of what's to come. And so when I go and the best parts of it were right there in the trailer, yeah, we're going to need movie execs and directors and writers, because it's not the actor's fault. The actor can only work with what they have as far as content. They're working with the script that you give them. They're doing what the director and the writer have there. So it's really up to whoever's creating that movie to, the actor can just interpret. Now, where the I have seen movies where the acting was so good that you didn't realize, like, if you came out of it and they said, "What was the movie about?" I'm like, I have, like, the acting was so good you forgot that you were looking at a movie, and you could no plot development, no none of that other stuff. Now, keep in mind that I'm getting relatively new at the whole movie reviewing thing. I'm kind of new to the whole movie reviewing thing. So as I do this thing, you have to be patient with me. I try to do my reviews of it. If you've ever heard any of my reviews, I try to do my reviews in such a way that I don't give away any spoilers or anything. Now, some fun commentary that I have seen on my YouTube here recently is they've been comparing, they've been comparing the most famous interpretations of a character. Like, and this has been Watch Mojo. They've been doing a pretty good job of comparisons. Like they compared um, the different Batmans because in order to see the Batman, which is the other film that she was in, so between the two, if you're a Zoe Kravitz fan, I think you would like Kimmy a little bit better than the Batman because the way that the Batman was constructed in the trailers, I thought we were going to see more of Zoe. And so and more of the Catwoman character, which I'll come back to in my own review. Um and I was a little disappointed because I expected, like, to me, like I said, if I had that to do, I would have had her setting fires. I would have had her having put making. I would have had her doing some mischief. Because if you have the storyline out there, she, is out for revenge. She's kind of a bit of a vigilante. She's out for revenge. That's all I'm going to give away of that plot because I don't want to give away too much, and I don't want to give away too much of my own review because I plan on doing a review and commentary on both these movies. But I will say for her performance in both movies, she gets, five kissy lips from me. Um, for the Batman itself gets four kissy lips because I would have liked to seen the whole sell on the movie for you if you're a Zoe Kravitz fan. And if you're going to a movie and you're hoping to see someone, and I have seen that happen with people of color a lot in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry, movie making industry. Well, they will hype up a particular person of color because they feel like it's going to get some black asses in seats. Let's just be honest with ourselves. And then you get there and you hardly see the movie. You hardly see the person until like maybe an hour or so into the movie. Now, if I'd have known her part, I would have liked knowing that her part was not going to be as big as they tried to make it out to be. And so I'm looking forward to their interpretations of the character Catwoman because right now Watch Mojo is doing a comparison, like a versus between the different Batmans. So one comparison is the Michael Keaton Batman, and these are all cinema Batmans, by the way. So the Michael Keaton one, the Christian Bale one. Well, yeah, I'm like completely leave out George Clooney, which I liked Batman and Robin, but evidently there were a whole lot of people that didn't. And the new one, which is the Batman, the one that just came out this weekend. So they've done compare and contrast on them. Then they did one on the Riddler, who in this movie, if you don't know, the Batman is kind of being troubled with by the Riddler, but this Riddler, and I'm gonna talk about this in my review, is a little bit of a different type of Riddler. He's not the guy, and it depends on when you became a Batman fan. So, if you're a Batman fan from the 1966 um, Cape Crusader with Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder, and those particular characters that were um, a little bit cartoonish and meant to be cartoonish because they were aimed at a lot of children. These other ones, the Batman universe and in the cinematic universe is a little bit different. One of the things I remember reading back when the Michael Keaton, the Tim Burton, who was the one that directed it, I think he might have wrote it too. And like I said, I'm going to do the rabbit trail when I do my review and everything on it. But I have to say, I don't have no regrets about seeing either movie. Like I said, if you're a big Zoe Kravitz fan, you might be a little bit more into Kimmy because in Kimmy, she's like the protagonist, she's the main character. Um, Both kind of feature a lot of current technology. Kimmy is kind of a take on You know how a lot of people have smart homes and they have Siri or Alexa. So Kimmy is kind of a take on the whole Siri, the whole well, Alexa, since we're talking about people's homes. She's a take on Alexa. And also, there's some things in there about mental illness. It's almost a take on, if I were going to compare it to a movie that you would have already seen, it's almost a little bit of a take on Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. And I'm gonna talk about that. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and review both these movies, even though I've already, kind of given my stamp of approval. I went with my mother and my daughter, and so out of my group, I was the minority. Out of when I went to see the Batman, mom and my daughter, the Queen Mother, and the princess were not all that crazy about it. I had a little bit of appreciation for it. Number one, there was a lot of use of what they call film noir. So, film noir is usually an attempt, um, and there have been people who have made fun of film noir. I remember Robert Townsend did this one skit in one of his HBO specials where he made fun of the use of film noir. So film noir is when they make it, if it's color, there's not a whole lot of emphasis on colors, not a whole lot of bright colors. It's very dark. And I mean, scenic wise, it's very dark, mostly set at night when most of the criminal underground activity in a major city, which Gotham is supposed to be. Um, very, it's meant to be very stylish. Um, it's also meant to be kind of gritty because we're talking about, underground activity, criminal enterprises, different things that would not be taking place during the daytime. The only scripture that comes to mind when I think about film noir is the one where the one where the scripture about men loving the dark because their deeds are evil. So when you talk about film noir, that's what you're kind of talking about. The reason for film noir would be because you're talking about a high level of crime and different things that would be going on at nighttime. The criminal element is usually sleep during the day. So films that make good use of film noir. Um, this one did, but I look forward to this director getting better. I don't know. I have to do the rabbit trail and do my research on what other movies he's responsible for. Um, One thing about the Batman universe is that you have to be a person who runs to the theater or gets on, the streaming service like the second that the movie is out there. The Batman universe is for those people who are so in love with these different interpretations that they run to the theater every time one of them gets made. If you miss even one or two of these movies, you pretty much are going to be hard pressed catching up because you're like, well, what in the world? I hate when they do sequels like that because, I'm kind of like, okay, I think you should have something in there for the people who go to all the movies. But I also think you should have something in there for the people who may not have seen the last six or seven Batmans. And so I know it sounds like I'm going into my review now, but I'm not. I'm gonna hold a little bit back because I want to be able to, and I probably will be posting that sometime today. Okay. Over. So Daily Mail is saying that Bill Cosby will remain free after Supreme Court says it won't revisit the sexual assault case. Okay, I'm gonna have to go over that. So let me go ahead. I'll go ahead and read this now. because this is fresh new. Yeah, I keep all of my notifications open, especially newsworthy. So the Supreme Court said Monday. This is courtesy of the Daily Mail, and this is fresh off the presses. This is actually today. So the Supreme Court said Monday it will not take up the sexual assault case against comedian Bill Cosby, leaving in place a decision made by Pennsylvania's highest court to throw out his conviction and set him free from prison. Now, keep in mind that his legal troubles are really not over. So the High Court declined prosecutors' request to hear the case and reinstate his conviction. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court last year threw out his conviction, saying the prosecutor who brought this case was bound by his predecessor's agreement not to charge Bill Cosby. Right. So they didn't keep their word. And this is what makes me mad when they plea bargain with suspects, any suspect, is if the person is wanting all of this, doesn't that kind of tell you that they're guilty in some respect? Okay. As is typical, the Supreme Court did not say anything in rejecting the case. The case was it wasn't a miscarriage of justice. The case was included in a long list of cases the court said Monday that it would not hear. The 84-year-old Cosby became the first celebrity convicted of sexual assault in the Me Too era. And I'm going to talk about Me Too this month because because Adams Rib Media Ministries is still doing, especially through Anjanette Speak. Well, actually, all of my blogs, we are still doing 31 days of global feminism. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is Me Too. Um, when a jury in 2018 found him guilty of drugging and molesting Temple University employee Andrea Constant in 2004. A jury had previously deadlocked in his case, resulting in a mistrial in 2017. Cosby spent nearly 3 years in prison before Pennsylvania High Court ordered his release. The Associated Press does not typically identify people who say they are victims of sexual assault unless they grant permission, and Ms. Constant has done so. So this is going to be interesting as it plays out. Um, it is never your fault when you are sexually assaulted. And to me, cases like this are pretty much, as I said before, I think that if you are a I think I think that if you are a fan of Mr. Cosby, that you owe it to yourself to watch Showtime's. Um, we need to talk about Bill Cosby. I'm going to do a review on that this month as well. It is actually very good. I think a lot of people are staying away from it because they think that they're showing him some support. And I don't think you do yourselves any. I think if you're going to be a fan of somebody, you need to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, or the possibly ugly. Let me put it that way, because I'm having a difficult time thinking that 51 women are all lying. I think if you're a fan of Hugh Hefner, you owe it to yourself to see the docuseries about the secrets of the Playboy Mansion. And I say that because many of these women, like you could be admirer of somebody's on air personality, but if you don't allow yourself to hear, and the one thing I do like about what Kamal Bell does, with we need to talk about Bill Cosby, is he shows pictures of the women at the ages, because one of the criticisms has been, of course, they're all in advanced ages now, so they don't look like they did when he assaulted them, when he allegedly assaulted them. So because they don't look like, they're older now. And let me say this is another, I'm going to cover rape myths this month too. because part of rape culture, the thing that protects sexual assaulters is the assumption that the victim has to be a certain level of attractiveness or youth and beauty. And that's not the case. Senior citizens are sexually assaulted all the time. Um, Corpses, dead bodies are sexually abused, which is necrophilia, yeah, exists. And people sexually assault. Coma victims, it's just sickening the what it's just sickening when you think of the types of victims, and victims are very diverse, and so are um I don't want to say victors, abusers are also very diverse. So I'm going to talk about all of that stuff when I talk about rape culture and when I talk about Me Too and Yes All Women and the different hashtags that are out here to represent victims, because many times people don't understand every story is unique. Um, Let me see here. So um, I also want to talk about, so we have a little bit of heartbreak going on here because we lost a legend over the weekend. We lost a acting legend. So Johnny Brown. Many of you, if you're a Good Times fan, then you remember Mr. Brown as Nathan Bookman on the or also known as Buffalo Butt on the series Good Times. So Mr. Brown passed away over the weekend. He passed away March 2nd. So I'm going to go ahead and this is all information courtesy of his Wikipedia page. Um, so Mr. Brown was an American actor and singer. He was most famous for his role as building superintendent Nathan Bookman on the '70s CBS sitcom Good Times. He basically was on the series until it was canceled in 1979. So he was born June 11th, 1937, in Petersburg, Florida. He died March 2nd, 2022, at the age of 84 in Los Angeles, California. And I don't know if you were a series watcher, then I don't know if you remember. I forget what because one of his children was Sharon Brown. Let me look here if I can find her. And she was on Good Times. Let me see here. She played a girl. This was in the early days of Citizen, what they call Citizen Band radios, and she played, I think, Fun Girl or something like that. And it turned out she and Michael communicated through a CB radios. And so CB radios at that time were kind of like our internet chat rooms and dating apps and emails of the day. So what they did was, so CB radios were something that people used, like first of all they were initially for truckers, and so truckers would use them to talk to other truckers, and they would find out. My dad used to have one, and so he was also a trucker, but like you could remove them from the truck and bring them into the house. And so what they would do is they would talk to each other through codes, and they would find out um, what a you got any, they'd be like, they had different handles. And so let's say they would say breaker breaker 19, hey sugar mama 75 or whatever. What do you have? Does anybody? Or they would just say they didn't know anybody in particular. They would say, hey, a breaker breaker 19 or whatever, this is Adams Rib 66. Anybody got a handle on what the situation is like on I-71? And so, somebody would answer and let them know what in other words, had there been any accidents? Is there any throughway? In other words, can we, what's the fastest way? Or right now I'm on I-71 and there's been an accident and traffic is whatever. Anybody got a handle on with how I can get to such and such a little bit quicker or a better way? So they were not only how can I say it? They were not only the internet chat rooms and whatever or instant messenger of their day. They were also useful in they were almost like GPS of their day because you could talk to somebody and find out what a faster way or route to get to a particular city would be, especially if you like say you just picked up some parcels and so that's how they did that. Well, they began to be so popular that people who weren't truckers began to buy them and they would talk to people. They would, get on there and they would, hey, this is such and such and such and such, this is but like I said, this is, Adams Rib 66. Anybody out there, if you felt like talking to somebody, and many of them, and they wouldn't, and many of them would also like say they were wanting to stay woke while they were driving. Then they would, get on there and talk to different people while they were driving to stay woke throughout their travel. So um, the particular episode had Michael getting on the CB radio with this girl, and she was talking about how she liked to dance and this, that, and the other. Well, she turned out to be Sharon Brown, and she was Johnny Brown's daughter. I know I went all around the Mulberry Bush, but I'm looking at his information, and I just thought I'd mention that. So his daughter was also an actress who wound up playing, had a small role on the show. So back to Mr. Brown. Um, so Mr. Brown was a night brown nightclub performer and promoter, and his earliest best role was a regular cast member on the TV series Laugh-In. Mr. Brown is mostly remembered for his portly physique, beautiful smile, mobile. Now, one thing about him I remember is that he did really good impressions of people. He was kind of known for being able to get up and imitate different people in the entertainment industry. So, mobile facial expressions and easy, pleasant joking style. So, Mr. Brown also appeared on The Flip Wilson Show, The Jeffersons, Family Matters, Sister Sister, The Jamie Foxx Show, The Wayans Brothers, and Martin. He appeared in the 1970 film The Out of Towners as a waiter on a railroad dining car. He also went to school with Walter Dean Myers. If you're a fan of the movie, the book, and subsequent movie Monster, so he went to school with that guy, and they grew up together. They're contemporaries when he lived in Harlem, New York City, as a boy. In the 70s, Mr. Brown starred in a television commercial for the Wright Brothers pen, W WRITE Brothers pen, a short-lived product of the paper make pen company. The commercial consists of an elaborate musical number, Right On Brothers, Right On, led by Brown as a school teacher who encourages his corresponding students to use the pen for their school assignments. So in 1997, Mr. Brown contributed his voice to the introduction of the compilation album Comedy Stew, The Best of Red Fox. In the introduction, Brown tells of how Norman Lear had considered Brown to play the role of Lamont in that would have been interesting. Sanford and Son, but was unavailable to do so because of his prior commitment to Laugh-In. So they went ahead and they got Damon Wilson, who was considered to be Lamont anyway, um, to play Lamont, the guy that we now associate with the role. In 1999, Mr. Brown appeared on 2 episodes of the Nickelodeon children's sitcom Keenan and Kel. So, so to his death, um, Mr. Brown died in Los Angeles on March 2nd, 2022, at the age of 84. He collapsed shortly after leaving a doctor's appointment for his pacemaker and was pronounced dead when brought to the hospital. So let me see here. So there'll probably be more details coming out because everything is, really, really fresh. As a dedication to Mr. Brown, I will be adding some of his, because if you don't know, comics make comedians make albums too. So I will add a few of his comedy albums to the Spotify playlist for this week's show broadcast. I will be broadcasting live at this Friday at midnight. I don't right now. The theme still is global feminism. I don't have I will know by Friday if I have a die-hard topics that I want to zero in on. So, but out of the records that he did make, Mr. Brown began recording as a singer late in 1961 after having toured with Sam the Man Taylor since 1958. His first release was on Columbia Records, Walkin', Talkin', Kissin' Doll, with Sundown in 1961. He was only 23 at the time. The promotional release was accompanied with a special insert describing his background. And there's a picture in the Wikipedia page. His next record happened in early 1968 at Columbia Records. You're Too Much in Love with Yourself. And to Don't Dilly Dally Dolly, the later showing off his impression skills as he did an impression of Louis Armstrong. So that release had initially been available on Crest Records. So I will see if I can find them. If I can find them, then I will go ahead and put them with my playlist. So we already so if you are following any of Mr. Brown's family on social media, show them some love, give them your support, let them know how much their father meant to you. It is not easy to be in the entertainment industry and make the sacrifice of, being out there for the world. So, let him know. If you follow his daughter, Sharon Brown, let her know how much he meant to her, to you, even if you know him as Bookman. I mean, this is a man brought a lot of laughter and fun into the world. And so we appreciate his laying his life down for his art like that. So, let me see here. So now, with COVID news, so I'm hearing reports that um, I know locally, like here, Columbus, I think they're starting to be relax some of the mask wearing mandates for the schools. I say do so at your own risk. Um, I am not totally against an establishment still, um, uh, wanting people to wear masks. I know last night we went to the Drexel and they still are requiring masks. And they had got to the point where you had to have a mask and you had to show them that you've been vaccinated. So some venues are still requiring that. I believe like in my car, I had ordered a bunch of masks, in the color pink, of course. And so they're hanging from my rearview mirror in my car. And I have been keeping them because when I was working for SafeLight, we had to wear masks into the building all the way over to our seats because it was a call center, because it is a call center. And so I would keep one on my wrist and then put it on when I got in the building. And once I got to my seat, then I would go ahead and take it back off and put it back on my wrist. So a lot of buildings are still requiring people to wear masks. Like I said, now Ohio, Columbus, Franklin County is considered to be what they call medium. Uh, if you really want more information about the COVID, about the whole COVID thing, the one place to go do it is to go to the CDC. The CDC has an app that you can download into your phone, and you can get direct information from them as far as what you should be doing as far as mask wearing and everything. Because I'm a little like the people that are cautious. I'm like, well, we're all of a sudden just not wearing masks anymore. I just don't know. I would say continue to keep a lot of them with you just in case. But if you want to know, if you want more concrete information on whether or not you should mask up going in places, many places anymore, all in the name of customer service or just keeping disposable masks. So if you forget your mask, it's no longer a big deal. They will give you a mask so that you can shop around the store and everything instead of getting into these big power struggles over the mask. So, and that's what I wound up doing last night when I went to the Drexel. Um, the Drexel is actually fast becoming one of my favorite movie houses to go to. They're a nice little movie house right on the corner, right on Main Street, across from right in Bexley here in Columbus. They are a landmark, and they've done recent renovations to it. So it has like about, I would say probably about 4 or 5 or possibly even 6 theaters up in there. So, so it's not a multiplex, but it is a good place to go. If you're just looking for a more intimate atmosphere to do your movie viewing and don't want to have to go through an entire mall and don't want to have to go through, don't want to have to go through a whole lot of crazy big theater parking. They're just a nice, small, intimate place to go to just so that you can just, you just want to take your sweetheart out for a nice movie, or if you're a parent or if you're a person like me that will go to movies by yourself, they're a nice intimate place to go to that not too much trouble. You can just park your car on the side of the building unless it's and go. So they're really a good place to go. Um, this is something that I just saw here recently. It's called the Not Effing Around Coalition. And it's actually probably about 5 years old. So this is a little bit of news. I call this late to the party news because I just now saw it. And when I saw it on YouTube, I saw it as something that it was a year old. It was from last year, last March on YouTube at the time. So the Not Effing Around Coalition is a black nationalist, and like I said, they're going to get some mention this month. Part of the militia movement in the United States. The group advocates for black liberation and separatism. And believe it or not, the black separatism movement is growing. They got a whole lot they saw a whole lot of growth during the Trump presidency because nothing helps that sort of thing like a white racist agenda, which seemed to be what the Trump presidency was bringing. was bringing um, during the during the Trump presidency. I never saw this country more racially divided as when it was almost like everybody that voted in favor of Trump were really people who were laying low, and believe it or not, a lot of black people voted for Trump, which I found really, really shocking. Not so shocking, but shocking, you know. Um, so they deny any connection to the Black Panther Party or Black Lives Matter. which I hate when groups like this are placed in the hate group category because they're not hate groups. They're more, to me, I have always thought of the Panthers, um, what's the other one? Black Muslims, and different other groups, not as hate groups, but more reactionary groups. They're a reaction to actual hate groups, which usually are white. They're a reaction to white militia, KKK, neo-Nazi skinheads, and all of that. And I'll tell you what, if you really want to feel like you want to study something and do some research on, if you want to do some research on hate groups, the skinheads are an interesting group to study because in the very genesis of the skinhead movement, they actually were not racist and neo-Nazi. There were actually black skinheads in the beginning of it because the movement was not to do, were not the hate group. So I remember them being on Oprah, and there was a black guy sitting in the audience. And Oprah said, "Brother, what are you doing over there?" And he said the early skinheads were black, or there were black people involved. So if you do the rabbit trail, like if you just feel like sitting down one Sunday or just one day and you just feel like studying something and researching something, and some of this stuff would be an interesting thing for extra credit at school. Talk to your teacher. And what could I do to bring a grade up? Well, what if I did a report on blah, 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 blah? Hey, wouldn't hurt. Or on Black Militia, which is who I'm talking about right now. So, John Fitzgerald Johnson, also known as Grandmaster Jay, and John J. Fitzgerald Johnson, claims leadership of this group and has stated that it is composed of ex military shooters. Mr. Johnson served in the Virginia National Guard and the Army from 1989 to 2006, leaving at the rank of private. So he was an independent candidate for U.S. president in 2016. I'm too scared. And has stated, "We are a black militia. We're not protesters. We aren't demonstrators. We don't come to sing. We don't come to chant. That's not what we do." Furthermore, in the same interview, he expressed black nationalist views. So, for those of you who don't know, and I'm going to do the rabbit trail, a brief rabbit trail. So, black nationalism is a kind of nationalism or pan nationalism, which espouses the belief that black people are a race, and it seeks to develop and maintain a black racial and national identity. Black nationalist activism revolves around the social, political, and economic empowerment of Black communities and people, especially to resist their assimilation into white culture through integration or otherwise, and maintain a distinct Black identity. So I'll be talking about them a little bit more um, during this month because, believe it or not, many women who belong to Black nationalism also have some roots in feminism. So um, I'm also I'm also going to talk about Black supremacy. Well, because I personally, don't necessarily think of Black supremacy as a thing, but I could be wrong. Okay, so that's gonna be included in 31 days of global feminism. Now, I'm also gonna give a shout out to a channel that I watch on YouTube on a regular, and that is Intellectual Media. So Intellectual Media talks about a whole discusses and teach she basically teaches. And she teaches on a whole lot of different topics. And it's like as I was watching at her, it started giving me even more topics to want to talk about in my thread or whatever in my podcast. So she talks about one of the things she talked about the birth control movement, because you have hoteps and different other black separatist groups who have a problem, who see teaching women being taught on um, birth control as genocide. Birth control isn't genocide, and I may talk about that whole thing this month too, since it is a part of feminism. The right to reproductive rights, and like I said before, white and black feminism. The really, I'm kind of with Gloria Steinem. I hate to divide the two, but at the same time, as a black woman, I also recognize that black women, when it comes to the whole fight for equal rights for women, black women have a whole different thing that we look at. We have to look at, first of all, our sexual freedom and autonomy. We have to look at forced sterilization, which actually really was a thing. And many women, it's not just black women in the United States, but the right to be able to have a family and have it be whatever size you want it to be, but also the right to decide how many kids. I'm kind of like Shirley Chisholm on that. It would be better for you to have two children, have them be well taken care of, well provided for, not neglected or anything, than to turn around and have eight children, and you can't have take care of them. Some of them being neglected. You can't halfway keep them housed. You can't halfway keep them clothed. Like there's no justice in that either. And with women, it seems like the control of our own womb, the right to decide to carry the term, the right to decide to have children once you decide to have a husband, okay? Or have children and not have a husband, because now there seems to be a movement against single moms. Now, I'm going to say this, I think that's the devil. Okay. And the reason I think that's the devil, like, why are the people who stuck around, depending on how she became a single mother? I have a problem. I had to unfollow. I'm going to tell my own little story. There was this black coach or whatever, this black man, and I had to unfollow, unsubscribe from his channel. And I did so because, number one, I'm a single mother and I'm a black woman. So what I look like continue to follow this man, even though he has these views. And he was telling men not to date single mothers. And then he said, well, if the man becomes a deadbeat. I'm like, a man becomes a deadbeat because he doesn't take care of his children. You have kids out here. I'm like this. If you know that you definitely don't want kids, why don't you just go on and get snipped? If you know that you don't want children, well, may I want them eventually. Okay, then at one point when you find the right woman, you may want some children with her. Then wrap it up, or listen to women when they tell you they don't want to have sex with you. That's one of the things I never understand. You want to be able to plan your life, but you don't want to really plan your life. You want women to do it all for you. And if you're a man who refuses to wear a condom or refuses to take any accountability for who you sleep with, you know, I've heard many channels here making fun of Nick Cannon because Nick Cannon been a bit busy. But the bottom line is, Nick Cannon also needs to be prepared to take care of those children. And like I've heard a lot of people say, and I can say this myself, being a parent who has raised two children to adulthood. First of all, I'm glad it ain't my son. Okay, I really am. Because I don't know that I would want my son to have that many kids with that many different women. It's one thing to get together with one person and decide you want to have a bunch of kids. Okay, and I really think that some of these men who do this mess, I'm like, if you had to carry these babies, you probably wouldn't have all these babies. Okay, if you had to carry them and had to be like, it's cool. It's easy if you have enough money to throw money at a situation and go, well, here, you know, let me put away enough that you and the baby can live good. But when you talk about being a real daddy and you talk about being there like a lot of daddies are, changing diapers, taking them on outings, being present, being the one who shows up when the teacher needs to talk to to them with a parent teacher conference, having to get up with them in the middle of the night if they have a fever, having to be there through everything. Now, I also understand Nick has, lost a child. And so my heart goes out to him because no matter what your no matter how a child gets here, I view every child as a blessing. I even rated my grandson on his behavior in the movie theater because he's 3. And I told my daughter, I said, he gets 5 kisses from grandma because I didn't know the movie was going to be as long as it was. And so the fact that he was able to be cool, he was still talking, but he wasn't talking real loud. I think he only had 1 or 2, semi meltdowns, which kind of comes with the territory of a kid. You just have to be on top of them when they're at home so that when they are in public, they're not doing anything. And even then, you can't always control, because sometimes them little people are just going to do what they do because they are just people. You just have to stay on top of them and stay on top of your job as a parent so that, they eventually grow out of some type of behavior. They really do. They eventually stop. And this was also an adult movie. This was not a movie that was geared toward kids, so it's harder to keep their attention when it's not something that they would be interested in and doing. We just discovered an app, and I put a couple apps on my phone because he's at the age now where he likes to play with people's phones. And so we discovered an app. There's two. There's Duolingo, which helps with language. That's me. But there's also one called Duo 123, and it's geared towards small children. And they learn how to write letters, and they learn how to sound out letters, and they learn how to associate letters with different things. It's really a fun app, and I was playing with him with it. He didn't seem to understand that I need you to push these buttons while I hold my phone. And I say that because I have had people I've given my phone to kids to play with, and my phone wound up. I've had too many phones wind up missing because I allowed somebody's child to play with it. So the phone got to stay with me. Period. So he got a rating for his behavior, and he actually did really, really good. I was very proud of him. He did really well. Um, this week I will be posting more content. I'm like I said, right now I'm fighting with my pod video app to try to turn my podcast into video so I can get them uploaded on YouTube. I may have to find another way to do that. We're going to see, because the one fun thing about this to me is to be able to put my stuff on YouTube so the people who may not um, subscribe to podcasts will listen to my stuff anyway. And like I said, my stuff is meant to be an ongoing discussion about whatever topic I'm posting about. So I've been on here for about an hour now. So I'm going to go ahead and get off. But I just wanted to let it be known I will be coming back up on Friday. Adam's Rib Media Ministry is not going anywhere. And as I said before, the next, good Lord, the next, I'm going to commit to the next 4 Fridays being on the topic of salvation. And the reason why I want to talk about salvation is because too many people are giving power to the enemy. There are too many teachings out there that are false. There are too many false teachings in the world. Too many things that are passing themselves off as salvation. You have to watch when someone tells you that God told you. So it's really out of the vein of just like I did this past Friday. The next, I'm going to commit to 4 Fridays at least. It may even be 5. But I I have heard people use Christianity to oppress, such as the case of, white supremacists using salvation, using Christianity, I would say. White, for one thing, white supremacists calling themselves born again Christians, which they are not. And if you pay attention to your Bible, you know that they're not. That's been false for a long time. They are not. I remember watching Roland Martin one time, and he outed one of them. He said, "Are you a born again Christian?" And the guy danced all around his question, and he said, "Have you committed your life to Jesus Christ? Have you?" Because there's no way that you can be saved and still be a white supremacist. I'm saying it out of my own mouth. God's word says that there is neither Greek nor Hebrew. In the book of Galatians, it says there is neither male nor female, there is neither bond nor slave, there is neither Greek nor Hebrew. Now, let me break this down a little bit further. Male nor female means that there are no gender distinctions. In other words, God isn't playing favorites between men and women. He's not esteeming men above women. Number one. So no sexual or gender distinctions. There is neither male nor female. There is neither bond nor slave. No class distinctions. So where does that leave bourgeoism? Or people, social economic class, different other things, people preferring people who are moneyed above poor people, are constantly coming out with all of this rhetoric that really is just another way to pick on or bully poor people. There is neither Greek nor Hebrew, no racial ethnic distinctions. So how are you going to say you're a white supremacist and a born again Christian when Christianity stamps all that out? We're not supposed to. So these Klan men wanting to do night rides, like, no, nowhere in the Bible does it say keep the niggers in their places by riding at night to make sure that they don't step out of line. As a black person, you have to know your rights. You have to know your rights within the kingdom of Christ. You also have to know your rights as a citizen in the United States. I didn't get a chance to finish this. I think I'm gonna. This is going to be. This is going to be something. The not effing around coalition is going to be something that I make a podcast out of, so that I can talk about different groups. So that I can talk about different groups that are a part of the whole black nationalist movement, because I think it is interesting. And I'm also going to talk about black supremacy, do the research on that. I have a hard time believing in that a group would be black supremacists, and many times I hear a lot of white media liking to make groups like Black Nationalism, Black Lives Matter, trying to put the hate group tag. And I'm like, they're really not hate groups because they're not teaching anyone to hate white people. What they are is a reactionary group, and they're a reaction to the groups who practice hatred by lynching, murdering, assaulting Black people. If I had my way, if I had my way, a white cop would not be able to be affiliated with white supremacy and be a cop, because you are hired to protect and serve all people. And I don't know that you can do that and have those types of affiliations. That's my little controversial view for the day. Anyway, so you guys have a good one. I got my little pretty mic today because since you can see me, but I will be talking to you guys, through the internet. So you guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your week. I will be back live on Friday, and like I said, one of my sermons, I will be talking about salvation, and I will be speaking. Let me see here. And I will be using excerpts from my book, Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Christianity But Felt Too Stupid to Ask. And yes, this is volume 1, and yes, it is very, very slim. If you decide after hearing this that you would like a copy, you can let me know. And I have a GoFundMe. I also have links on my channel for you to let me know that you want to get one. You can also you can also let me know, you can also just comment and let me know and ask me where you can get a copy. Um, it is on Amazon. So you have the ability to get it through Amazon. It is actually cheaper to get it through me. If you want to get copies, I have copies around the house here because, it's my first, the first of many, many brethren. So I have copies of it. And I will be teaching. And one of the reasons I'm going out of my book is, number one, it's a good read, but also number two, because the book has stuff that I had already researched. I don't see the need to go back and research anything that I've already researched. I've already went ahead. For me, it's a good source because I've already researched out of that and already have, what I would want to say. And if you've already got prima facie evidence of of the viewpoint that you had, and I can go back and reread it and go, well, yeah, I still feel this way. I have gone to people, like people have had discussions on the internet and Facebook and groups, and I'm like, man, I touched on that. Like, why repeat yourself if you've already got prima facie evidence of already addressing that issue? So I'll go to a blog and link that in there and let them read that, or I'll take a page out of here and let them read that because I've already addressed that. And the last thing you want to do is address something you've already addressed. So that's one of the reasons. All of it is not going to come out of my book. Most of it's going to come out of the Bible. But to talk about different aspects, what does it take to be saved? I actually have a chapter in here. Let me see here. I talk about all religions pointing to God. They don't. Why it is necessary. Sirs, what must I do to be saved? So that's kind of where I'm going to come from. I may even address, I also have, no, I also have, I talk about the inclusion question. Are we all really saved and don't know it? Not true. I talk about mixing politics and religion. Is Jesus a Democrat or Republican? I also talk about the issue of race. What color is Jesus? So I will be, and I also encourage people to accept Christ. But for the next couple of weeks, the discussion is going to be on what it takes to be saved. And so, because I'm hearing all kinds of teachings, I've had to deal with all kind of witchcraft, people trying to act like God is talking to me, and I'm clearly you're not the voice of God. Clearly, you're not the voice of God. Clearly, you're not the voice of God, and clearly, I don't need to talk to you or listen. So I'm going to talk some more. I'm going to go ahead and get off here now because I've got content that I need to create while I'm here at home. So I will talk to you guys later. You guys have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your week. It looks like the weather is trying to transition into spring. It would be lovely if it did. I could stand an early spring because this winter has been woof, and especially these last 2 years with the whole pandemic situation. So you guys have a good one. I love you, and I will be talking to you later.